huge. Louisville basketball is huge over there. High school
You did
basketball
it.
is huge.
You said Louis. I heard you.
You did. Remember
Oh no!
I normally don't.
Well, it's an L a little bit.
That's an L right there.
I'm normally always a Louisville because it's been beaten in my head since college, and I don't know
That's
why. I don't know
shameful.
why Louis came out there. I have no idea. Louisville. All right, so and big high school basketball there as well. We're kind of in the thick right now at the end run of college basketball for the men and the women. Men, a little shaky at Auburn, but got a nice little bounce back win over South Carolina. A bit of a scare there. How did you internalize their game against the Gamecocks and being able to get back in the win column?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, I said it on air. A win is a win, especially in this tough SEC conference. But I don't think BBN was satisfied with seeing the way they played against a South Carolina team who has struggled all season long. Of course, with the postseason being so soon, I think that brings worry.
Right.
In how they competed against a team they should be dominating. But again, a win is a win. And also, too, as everyone knows in this SEC conference, really anybody can win any given day. So it's tough, but I'm just glad they got the win because 4 losses in a row would have been brutal, especially going into these final few games.
And I think the craziest part about some of these losses were the fact that they were some of Otega Oweh's best games of the season. And we had talked about on this show a few times is Mark Pope mismanaging games, and we kind of came to the consensus of not really. But how refreshing was it to see Denzel Aberdeen step up on the road?
I mean, I think that's big. Again, teams now know. I mean, Otega's getting doubled most of the time, which is why I think he struggled a little bit at South Carolina. So that means your other role players have to step up. That's just the bottom line, and that's what's going to get them wins, which it did for Denzel. Also, one of the, shaky things has been the bench production hasn't had much depth. And so it was nice to have Mo Diabate come out off the bench. He scored 12 points, was big on both sides of the floor. So that played a significant difference. But I think especially going into this postseason, everyone's scouting report's going to say, guard Otega Oweh, double him, make his life as hard as possible. So it's going to make those other players, they are going to have to step up, especially if this team wants to go far in the SEC tournament and then, of course, the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. One of the kind of interesting things that happened over the weekend after the Auburn game was Mark Pope in his post-game press conference. He was doing everything to not step on the landmine of getting a fine from the NCAA. He would open every single question with, I don't want to get fined. And then next thing you know, he's docked $25,000 because you could hear him complaining about the officiating in the corridor.
Yes.
And a lot of people who were doing this kind of dime store psychology were saying, well, that is indicative of this job getting to him and the losing streak and whatnot. How did you internalize this whole aspect of criticizing the officiating? Do you think he had a point? And what does it mean for his team moving forward?
Do I think he had a point? Yes. There were definitely some questionable calls. And to be fair, I think it's common knowledge maybe that, Kentucky sometimes doesn't get a whistle. And so I think with the history of that and then going into the season, that's kind of been the storyline in a lot of games. So, yes, there were some questionable calls. However, I will say there were many things that Kentucky could have done in that game to win earlier on. I mean, they were up by 10 at one point, so you can't blame it all on the officiating. Yes, the call was questionable, but of course, I think it was funny in the press conference because he was like, I am not allowed to talk about the officials, but sometimes I think it's personal. So it's like he was contradicting himself. And then, of course, when the hot mic caught him talking to Mitch Barnhart in the hallway, there was just no way the SEC was going to let that fly.
Yeah.
Like I said yesterday, I'm like, if you waited 20 seconds and got back to your locker room or even got off the plane and set it in the car, you would have been fine. But I don't know. It was and go ahead.
I was just saying, I think he did not say anything about the officials. Like,
right.
Obviously, specifically, yes, you can say it was a lot of passive aggressiveness in there. However, I'm just like, the SEC, they can't let that happen because then one coach is going to see Mark Pope do it. And they're going to be like, I can do it. And then it's become a big thing they don't want to deal with. So I think from their stance, you have to nip it in the bud. But he really necessarily didn't say anything specific.
Right, exactly.
And I'm trying to figure out a term for Kentucky not getting the benefit of a lot of calls because Calipari would always And he still never gets a call. Yeah, I mean, he was pretty. I know a lot of Arkansas fans were talking about it this year too.
Like they walk into a gym with 2 fouls.
Like the Alabama game. Yeah.
And there's.
I don't know what it is, but I feel like the refs never are on Kentucky's side, and it's like a whole thing now with Big Blue Nation. Everyone knows it, so I think there's even more scrutiny when it comes to the refs here in Lexington.
So okay, we're gonna have like we're gonna have a moment here, like just you and I, nobody else here. All right. You're from California, so you're a Cali girl. Do you think that it's a real situation where they don't get the call, or is it like a persecution complex, or is it like kind of both intermingle? It's like, are they being persecuted and they have a persecution complex? Because it feels like to me that if you just keep echoing the same things like over and over again, it's like, okay, well, we don't get the whistle. We don't get the whistle. We don't get the whistle.
Yeah.
The reason why I say this is because I'm a big Shaq fan. And watching Shaq growing up, I would always say the same thing. And Shaq would say the same thing. Well, I'm officiated differently than everybody else. And I wonder if that's just a mindset thing moving forward, or do you really think that plays out in reality?
That's a good question. I really do think it can be a little bit of both. I think when you run with one narrative, it like becomes this whole theme. So anything is like, they just don't like Kentucky. They just don't like Kentucky. So I think that absolutely plays a part. And then we know how insane Big Blue Nation is. So yes, I think that is some of the story. But on the other hand, I do think there are some particular referees that have a history with Kentucky. Prior to even when I was here, that I've learned about, because I'll walk into Rupp Arena and everyone's like, oh, I think Doug Shouse. I think I might be saying his last name wrong, but they're like, he's reffing today. And so like there's some history with certain referees. So I think between the ref and the program, maybe there's a little animosity there. I don't know, but I think to answer your question, there is definitely two sides to every story for sure.
I get that.
Flipping it forward here, they're going to face Vanderbilt, who demolished them the first time around. But just big picture here as we start to end the season, is Kentucky all but locked into the tournament, even if they lose out?
I think right now they definitely needed that win against South Carolina. So I think right now they are, I mean, according to CBS bracketology, they are looking at the number 6 seed right now in the tournament. However, the schedule doesn't get easier. You got Vandy, still have Florida, still have some tough opponents. So in terms of those, those results will be big indicators. But right now I know they are looking at that number 6 seed in the tournament. So we'll see how these other two games play out.
I tell you what, CBS is very high on them.
Yeah.
6 seed. That's
6 seed. That is kind of high.